Welcome to another great story with your host, Nick Sandino. Brought to you by The Village Christian Church. Do you know any great stories? We sure do. And we can never find enough time on a Sunday morning to tell them all. Here at Another Great Story, we tell the truth about where life change, life growth, and life purpose meets our everyday life, with the hope that you might experience God in your story.
Welcome back to Another Great Story. I'm your host, Nick Sandino. Joining me today again is Carter Ferguson for what, the second, third?
Something like that. Who knows?
You've been around a little bit. So sit back and relax and see where this thing goes on Another Great Story. So, Carter, what's new in your life since the last time we hung out?
Well, last time we hung out, I think it was like a week or two once I got on staff, and a lot has happened.
Yeah. What's changed? What's new in your life? So this is what, month... What was your official start date? June?
July 1st.
Okay.
July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. We're in March.
Yes.
We're in March. 9.
Yeah.
That's why we went into ministry and not math. Yeah, so started in July, and since then it's been a fun roller coaster. Went to a few camps. Camps are super fun. It's just a week hanging out with went to junior high camp, so a week with a bunch of junior hires.
Before junior hires knew who you were or that you were going to be their youth pastor.
Yes, super fun way to get to know kids, because it was like you go in a stranger and you leave best friends. That's like the joy of camp. You don't know anybody, and then you walk out and you're like, now we're all best friends.
Right. So you've worked, this is your third church that you've worked at, because you had an internship at a somewhat known church called Life Church.
Yep.
Where you worked for the man, Craig Rochelle.
Yeah, very distantly. I think on the org chart we were like 20 or 30 degrees from each other. But
did you ever get the chance to meet him in person or shake his hand?
Yeah, so I had one day, so it was like, same thing. It was like 2 weeks into my job there. And I woke up and went to work like I would always go to work. Now, it had iced the day before, and anybody who's lived in Oklahoma knows what this is. I did not. It's just like a straight inch and a half of ice on everything, which is really
and that's
weird.
Common in Oklahoma?
Yeah, it's like a 2-3 times a year thing, I guess. And I never, Midwest, you go to work. That's just I don't even think to check my phone beforehand or wonder if it's a yes or no, a school day, you're going to get a snow day. I just didn't think that way. So I had a 40-minute drive on back roads that turned into an hour and a half. And I was thinking on my way in, I'm going to be in huge trouble. I'm the intern. I'm going to be late to a morning meeting. And I show up and there's 3 cars in the parking lot. And it's where is everybody? And I walk in, and it's Craig and the security team. And they're like, look at the intern showing up for work. And
that's it.
And everybody else had been called out because on Teams, they had just said, hey, don't come into work. It's iced. It would be terrible for you to drive on that. And I drove an hour and a half, slipping and sliding on back roads.
Did you always live 40 minutes from the office?
Yep. I lived in Midwest City, which is kind of as you have boroughs of New York, there's boroughs of Oklahoma City, but they're way bigger. And I lived, just 40 minutes outside of their Edmond campus. So their broadcast campus and their central services are in Edmond, but most of their churches are in Oklahoma City. They have 13 in the metro area of OKC.
Wow.
Something like that. That's in the teens.
But you office out of the main, you have one main campus.
Yeah, and it was, no church office the listeners are probably thinking of. It's
I don't know what a listener thinks about a church office. Yeah. Because we just had my friend John here yesterday to check it out. He's in ministry down in Broadway and met Matt Toon.
Yep.
And he kept saying, where do you go to get anything done? Because we're an open concept.
Yes.
Bunch of cubicles facing each other, and the most privacy you get is if you go to a Kid Village room, the studio, or put headphones on.
Yeah, and it is very much that way. I'm in the studio a lot.
Yeah.
I'm in the studio a lot. But yeah, Life Church, it's got about 1,000 people on staff. About 300 of those are at campuses all across America, and then 600 of them are in one of 2 main office buildings.
No kidding.
Yeah. It is a wild and all pretty packed in. Like I don't know what the square footage was, but my team was the team that I worked with was like 7 people, and we were in an office probably the size of the studio, which the studio is not very large. What square footage would you say that is?
Oh, that's under 200, right at 200 square feet.
Yeah.
And there was 7 of you?
I think. Let me think. It was me, Jason, Abigail, Catherine, Sam, and Laura. Yeah, like six. And that.
Yeah, it's pretty crammed in there.
It was tight.
You guys find out if you like each other or not.
100%.
This is like there used to be an MTV show called Real World, and this is the equivalent of like a bunch of interns being locked in a room every day.
Well, that was also the cool thing is like I was the only intern in that room.
Oh, really? They were all staff?
It was all full-time staff. I think they had all been there 3 years or more. Some of them for 7, 10.
But they were in your department?
Yeah, so I worked in their team. So essentially, like I was the content development intern. So Abigail was over groups. Jason was over Abigail and Laura. Laura was over missions. Sam was over like their blog, essentially. But really, I just got to work with like everything that went out from Life Church that wasn't Craig or the Bible app.
Wow.
Which was super interesting. Just like group content, articles, everything that you could imagine, podcasts, like got to work on a whole bunch of stuff, kids content. And what's fun is we actually use a lot of that kids content now. So at all of our campuses, we use the Life Church's free content, which is awesome. And for our pre-K content, the main character of that pre-K content that's like animated was my boss.
Oh, really? Yep. He's like the voice behind it?
Yeah, she's the voice behind it.
She's the voice behind it.
Which is just hilarious because now I'll walk through like Kid Village.
And you'll hear her.
Yeah, and I'll be like, oh, that was who I worked under.
Oh, that's pretty wild. So then you go from there and you go to Florida. That's like your first job.
Yep, full-time. Same thing here. I was youth pastor, like 6th through 12th grade.
Yeah, you're just killing those youth pastor statistics with your stay there.
Yeah, not great.
But, I mean, that wasn't the plan. But turnover happened and opportunity came, and nobody could blame you for that.
No, and what was really unique about my transition, so I was a youth pastor for a year, and within, I think, like a week, maybe like 5 days from me saying, like, hey, I've got this opportunity to come back to the Village, my home church, and I'm going to take it. Within like 5 days of that, my replacement was found.
Wow, and he was like a homegrown.
Yep, he was also pastor's kid, and was in a tech role, but had just really been feeling the call to ministry and didn't know what that looked like.
Right.
And then when I like announced that to the staff, he was like, hey, I think that's what I want to do. So then we had this really cool transition period. So that was in March, and from March to the end of June, we transitioned. So he came on as a volunteer,
right?
Started to speak a little bit, and then started to speak more than me, and then started to speak, and it was a seamless exit.
Have you checked on him since then?
Yeah, he's doing great.
Is he?
The youth ministry is doing really well. They went to camp right after I left and just had an absolute blast. They're really connected with a couple of other youth ministries in the area,
right? That
just have excellent people that he's around, and the staff at Salty is awesome, and so he's just got great support.
Transitions are one of the most dangerous things in a church. Yes. I mean, like, so you could take like the healthiest transition, and people get caught in it, and so that's why we're so cautious of it. And we've not had a lot of it here over 20 years.
Nope.
So I mean, comparatively, we've had Carol retire, we had Jared go take a new career path, we had Karen Scobie, who worked in our office for years, who went and did some different things, and I'm trying to think of who else.
We had Amy Cospade at the
We had
very
Amy
start.
Cospade. That was the early one, and Amy was like so gracious. She had Amy Pelkey in her pipeline.
Yes.
that was really part of what God was already doing, And so like we had Sarah O'Sullivan, who when she started attending here had no intention of ever being in ministry, and then was wildly successful in ministry.
Yes. The beginning of our kind of campus journey,
right?
Planting all these campuses was her kind of vision for Seneca.
Yeah, she probably dreamed bigger than what any of us were willing to say out loud at the time. I don't want to take that from your dad, because your dad's always had a real knack, and this is just, I want to get into this in a second, but your dad has a real knack for staying so consistent with his time with the Lord.
Yes.
Every day in prayer, every day in Scripture, and he's in a season in life where he knows the direction God's taken us on things.
Yeah.
And God's been incredibly gracious and faithful to him. Like, it's all credit to God, but it's an easy thing to miss.
It is. And just for listeners, if you don't know, my dad's Nate. He's the lead pastor here. And like for my entire life, he has had a standing appointment with God at 8 a.m. And I think, like, of all the things that my dad has said in my life, all the things my parents have said in my life, I don't think anything has taught me more than that. Like,
right.
To get up every morning for school, like our entire lives, me and my brother, like that was just my dad's time with the Lord. And what that turned into was, I mean, that started with, a couple hundred people in a school, and really it started with 40 people in a school. We just weren't old enough to remember him having that appointment with God. And through that, now we're all the campuses and all the things. And it's all credit to God, but it is like when you have that time set aside to understand where he's going, God can really take you to some cool places.
Yeah. He's his consistency has been like a safe shelter for me in my inconsistency. Not inconsistent faith.
Yeah.
But inconsistent disciplines or practices. I'm like a slow learner when it comes to navigating 4 kids and my wife working and like how to do it all. And so his consistency has been welcomed because it's like it carries, to steal from the kids a little bit. Like it really does carry like the like spiritual health of a lot of people around him,
Yeah, and I would include me in that. And like I say, man, he crushed that. I don't model that like as well as I wish I could, but anytime that I'm off, anytime that I'm wondering like where is God taking me, I can almost always pinpoint that back to I just haven't spent enough time with him.
Right.
Like I haven't been consistent in asking him where should I go?
Yeah.
What should I do? And then when I get back on that train, it's like, this is the thing. Like,
right.
and it's not always the thing that I want. It's not always the most fun thing. And I like the most fun thing. That's why I'm a youth pastor.
Right. So what does it look like? Because I was talking about this yesterday. Like, this is the second time John's made an appearance on the show today. Like, but my buddy John Muth, from Broadway, said a thing at camp, and so we're really big around here on it's not a religion, it's a relationship, and it's not a checklist. Like you can't checklist your way into good standing with God. Yeah. I can't be good enough. Like this is all of this is at God's hand. Like your rescue, or the Bible word, like your salvation is all at God's hand. And like the offer to come follow, even like the conviction of his Spirit, like the truth found in his word. So this is all God. And it's not a checklist. You can't climb that ladder. You can't just like, hey, if I give more this week, if I spend more time in my Bible. And John said a fun thing at camp. I don't think you were there for this week.
Yeah, that was high school.
It was the high school week. Yeah. Because it really stuck with Bennett, my oldest. He said, it's not a checklist, but sometimes it has to be a checklist.
Yeah.
Like it has to be a discipline, Like I can't, if you applied it to any other relationship, I can't be like, I'm annoyed, I'm not going home today.
Yeah.
Or I'm annoyed, so I'm not driving to work today.
Yes.
Or I'm just distracted, or I'm really busy, so I can't go do the things I have to do.
Yeah, and I think where I get it wrong all the time is like the pride I have that I'm like, why isn't my work done? It's like I don't drive to work, but I'm upset that my work isn't done. It's like I don't spend time with God, but then I'm like, where are you taking me?
Right.
And he's like, we should talk more. Maybe
right.
maybe you'd know where you're going if you spent that time with me. And it's always that like, oh yeah, like it is not to check the box, but it's really just a humility check to be like, okay, you're in control.
So you're 23?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And at 23, you figured out some things that not every 23-year-old has figured out with some of these disciplines. So give me like 3 of the do's in your life and 3 of the don'ts at 23 that you see, maybe you're not perfect at them, but that set you apart.
Yeah, I am not a early riser. I wish that I was.
Same.
I desperately wish I could wake up at 6 a.m. and like just be great, but I'm not.
Oh man, Rob Herzog and I just talked about this. You were there.
It made me feel so much better. Rob, great episode of the podcast. One of the best, but he's just this super put together firefighter, and you would assume like a guy that wakes up at 5:30, and he was like, "Man, I'm
got a solid 4 hours in."
And he was like, "Man, I'm an 8 a.m. guy," and it felt like I'm okay.
Yeah.
But anyways, where I was going with that is, I try to give the best part of my day to God. Again, not perfect at it, but when I'm most awake and when I can be free. So for me, that looks like my lunch hour has moved to that. So where I would generally like go and hang out and just eat food and just kind of relax, taking that time to say like, okay, I'm going to go back to the studio and kind of get away from people.
So what's spending time with God look like?
It changes by the day. I mean, it could be prayer. It could be listening to a sermon. Honestly, like, because we're preparing sermons and giving sermons, and Sunday's kind of like a moving thing, sometimes I miss it. Sometimes I miss like the week that we're in. And if I've prepared that week, like this past week, I'll just look up one of my favorite speakers. I mean, I love like Craig Rochelle, Matt Chandler, Mark Clark is a new favorite of mine. Like,
Kaylee's a Mark Clark fan.
He is
right.
He is one of. Kaylee introduced me to him.
I've not heard it. I just saw one pulled up on my phone that I haven't listened to yet.
He is highly engaging, highly engaging as a listen. I've actually never watched him. He's got a podcast where he just posts a sermon every week.
Right.
So I've been just listening to that, but it's really just whatever I'm doing. I can't multitask. So like,
oh really?
It doesn't exist. I don't think it exists in most human beings. I think we give 50% of our effort to 2 things. And what I
didn't want to be convicted on stuff.
I felt that way because I've always been I'm going to listen to a podcast and I'm going to cook this, or I'm going to listen to a podcast, I'm going to cook this, and I'm going to see this in the corner. And what I recognize is at the end of it, it's like the meal that I'm cooking isn't as good. I don't remember most of the podcast and anything else that I was focusing on. If it's a person, like I've got 2 roommates, I have noticed that my roommates will just walk away from me. If I'm cooking and listening to a podcast in like one ear of a headphone, I'll start a conversation with them and they'll recognize he's not listening and just walk away.
Yep.
And so I've tried like in that lunch hour, or sometimes it's right after work. I don't have kids to go and pick up, so when I get home from work, that's like before I get to like the second part of my day when I'm hanging out with people or doing whatever.
So that's number 1. That's like your number 1 thing. That's a do.
Mm-hmm.
Set time apart for God. Now I want to tangent off of that for a second, because we're not going to make a big conversation about it, but you've recently started dating.
Yes.
So how does that? And Ava's
the best
and maybe loves the Lord more than you.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the best way.
In the best way.
You know, and so, which is like absolutely what you should look like if you're looking to date. Find somebody that will outpace you in their pursuit of the Lord. That's what Lauren is. That's what Ava is. That's what, I mean, like 100%. that is an absolute blessing to have.
Yes.
Now, that said though, even in all of the wholesomeness of that, does it compete with your time with God?
1,000%. Like that's actually been a conversation me and Ava have had of just like, it is so much easier to call her than it is to sit down and pray.
Right.
It's way more fun. It's way more entertaining.
Yeah.
It's an instant feedback of that person rather than waiting on God to show up. And you got to be patient. Like God is testing and approving like his will in you, and that is so much more difficult than calling your girlfriend and saying like, how was your day? You know, like that's just way
while you cook and you're multitasking.
Exactly. And so I've had to like be really like on top of like I try, and actually this is not something that I've talked to Ava about, but I try to like if I'm getting to the point in my day where I need, like, we call it night. If I haven't spent time with the Lord beforehand, I will push back whenever we're doing that call, because if I get on that call, I know at the end of that call, I'm going to be tired, I'm going to bed. That's the day. And if I don't have that time with the Lord, it's like the whole reason we're in a relationship is to bring glory to him and not to entertain each other. And I think that's
a mouthful.
It is and I don't do that perfectly. Like, I say that, I know exactly what to do, and I think that's
Say it again.
Our purpose in a relationship with each other is to bring glory to him, not to be entertained by each other. And I love to be entertained. Like, I love fun. I love I just love hanging out with people. So it is.
I heard somebody say. I heard somebody talking about like doing. Somebody in ministry talking about weddings. Mm-hmm. I think I was doing some like re-engage homework to better understand re-engage. I watched some stuff another church said, and they said the purpose, like biblically, the purpose inside of marriage is this parallel to the way Christ loves the church. Mm-hmm. Okay, that like sacrificial, selfless love inside of relationship. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ, Ephesians 5:21. And then for husbands, what this looks like, willing to lay your life down, making her holy. Wives, what this looks like, to treat your husband as the head of the home, as Christ is the head of the church. And then really getting into what's that look like. We could go down that rabbit hole. But he said this really interesting thing. Nobody gets into love for selfless purposes, and then they have to transition to selfless purposes to make it work.
Yeah.
Like you didn't see Ava and say, man, that's the girl I want to serve the most. You know, you're like, yes. Man, she brings me the most joy. Like she brings, like, I love her. Mm-hmm. You know, not like what a privilege it is that I get to
serve you.
Right.
Yes.
It's, you know, and then for it to work, it has to switch.
Yep.
And it's almost like, is it that simple that we're not explaining that, you know?
Yeah, it is like I think even as somebody who's been around the church who like understands the answer to that, to actually put it into practice is a whole different animal.
It would be hard to date somebody and teach that to them. It'd be hard if somebody didn't know the Lord to say, hey, you're number 2 in my life behind the Lord, and I'm going to sacrificially serve you. And for this to work really well, you need to sacrificially serve me.
Yeah, the whole equally yoked thing.
Equally yoked, pulling on the same rope.
Which, by the way, for listening audience, I went to Bible college. I've been in the church for years. Did not understand that was not an egg yolk until little bit scary recently. I'm not going to say when.
I almost just spit water.
I'm not going to say when, but when you hear yolk, you think egg.
No.
Just for the listening audience.
Farm kid.
Yes. Just for the listening audience that didn't grow up on a farm and doesn't know what equally yoked means. Nick, you're going to do a better job at explaining what a yoke is, so I'm going to let you take over.
I mean, look at those old-timey pictures of 2 oxen pulling a plow or pulling some sort of farm implement through a field. Look at draft horses. Look at and like, so there's different ways of yoking different animals together, but you're equalizing them, and the sum of their part. Like their output is greater than the sum of their parts.
Yes.
So if one ox can pull X amount and ox 2 can pull X amount, it's not addition, it's multiplication. And so when you're equally yoked, and this is where like marriages feel like they get in the mud, is we're not pulling in the same direction. We don't have the same purpose. So I think we'll tangent down this. If marriage becomes like 2 people splitting responsibilities and 2 people sharing, like they're roommates, and you're even like, you like each other. Like it's even like, I don't have any like contempt.
Yeah. Or like animosity,
nothing like that. But it's like, I'm going to work 9 to 4:30. You're going to work 7 to 3:30. Who does pickup? you get them from my mom. I'll take this one to practice. I'll cover dinner. You make sure that this is covered. Don't forget to change out the laundry. What do we have going 3 nights out on the calendar? And we operate together in a system, and it doesn't have direction. Like, what are we trying to accomplish? Well, basically you're trying to accomplish in that setting, like, keep your kids alive and keep, don't miss something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't miss a payment. Don't miss a.
Yes. Yeah. Who, did you remember to make that payment? Who's in charge of that? Just got another dentist bill. Like, these are all things from my week right now. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm on my second grocery pickup order in 4 days. I'm on these are wonderful things that I've prayed for. Okay. Yes. We've got student ministry tonight for 2, maybe 3 of them. Mm-hmm. Practice tonight for 1 of them. Practice tomorrow night for another one. A musical for the kindergartner tomorrow night. An orthodontist appointment today at 3:30. Half-day pickup for the high schooler.
Fun.
And so, if Lauren and I are work partners that have to accomplish that, we can do that very well, and we actually get along as really close friends, But that doesn't, the only purpose on that is having, healthy, clean, athletic, talented kids.
Yeah.
That's not a great enough purpose.
Yeah, because then your kids are your gods.
Yes. You're worshiping them. You're worshiping their earthly success. You're worshiping your lineage. What do you call that when you pass something on? Your legacy.
Yeah.
You're worshiping the potential of your legacy. You're trying to give them everything you didn't have. Even if you had everything, then you want to give them struggle, so that, because you didn't have that. And here's the shift, that if it doesn't come back to, and this is so far ahead of every other important thing in our life, I'll explain, I'll give it this kind of severity. The importance of my sermon on Sunday, I would put a 10 out of 10 responsibility on in my career. Mm-hmm. If I start botching that, if I start becoming biblically illiterate, saying things that aren't there, that's an immediate disqualification. You don't bounce back from that. If it's a 10 out of 10 in responsibility here, in comparison to my children being invested in, to know the Lord, trust the Lord, and practice following the way. So not that they are in the rhythm of life walking with God. That is the 10 out of 10, and it puts preaching down to a 1 out of 10. They are so far off the charts, and the only purpose Lauren and I have is our girls knowing and loving the Lord. Part 2, if they so choose to get married, which is not a requirement by any means, and you can be completely satisfied single and completely purpose-filled in the kingdom and completely content and fulfilled. A man, C.S. Lewis, a man who has God and things has nothing more than a man who has God alone. Part 2 of that is if they so choose to get married, that they know what to look for so that they too can have that kind of depiction of Christ loving the church. And sacrificially, you're picking the person that you're going to painstakingly, and I mean that lovingly, serve for 60 years of your life, if the Lord blesses it in that way. So there's your rant.
No, I think I'm the product of that. I look at what my parents did, and, people would be shocked. My dad's a pastor, and my mom is, loves Jesus again. Probably close to, if not more than him. And how we were parented is so different than how almost anybody I know was parented. We didn't have rules. We didn't have any rules growing up. It was, you're going to honor God.
Yeah.
And we're not going to say bedtime's this. You're going to know that you need to be awake for tomorrow to talk to your friends and be loving. And that means you got to go to bed, but we're not going to put a time on it. We're not going to it was all for a focus of honoring God. It was all for a focus of serving him. Yep. And part of that was because we needed to. We were the of sometimes the only kid in our like kids class at church. We were the start of a lot of like friend groups at youth ministry. And my parents like really treated us like, hey, like you matter for eternity. Like what you're doing right now in junior high and high school. That's why I get so fired up about youth ministry. Like the kids that are bringing their friends, they're changing their friends' eternity. They're changing their friends' kids' eternity by bringing them into that good news. And like as parents, I mean, there's no one has had greater impact on me than the two people who loved me like Jesus and told me to do the same.
Right.
And the impact that has is so much greater than me. I'm just being obedient to what I'm doing my best to be obedient to what God says. And through that, God continues to do what only he can do.
Right. Yeah, I totally believe in God's faithfulness, but I will believe less in God's faithfulness the more I like depart from God-centered purpose. Yes. So Bennett's a incredible volleyball player and really has a ton of potential to only get better at that. And it's such a distant second to her spiritual health. And she's starting to understand that. Like she's starting to understand it with the greatest capacity that she can have at 14. And Jet's a high personality, like people person, social, fun person. And it is all to make him known. Like, I know that sounds extreme, but like we're not preparing them to walk in those things later.
Yes, it's like right now.
It's like right now. Like, what would we wait for?
Yeah, and and there's not like a too late on that.
No,
like
and you look at their potential all the time.
Oh,
so I look at Vale, and she's like Vale and Collins. Collins, it's curious because she's going to turn 6 in June. You just don't, like, you're still getting to know her. She's still getting to know her.
Yeah, brain's still cooking.
But, Vale is 9. You're starting to see, like, 4th grade's a big year in our house of transition where they mature and their brain changes. 7th grade's huge, and I'm only through freshman, but so far 8th grade to freshman was a big transition too. So there's these little windows where it's like a monstrous shift in your children, and the relationship with them will never be the same again. Go ahead and pause and tear about that because it's sad. Like, they're not your baby anymore, But at the same time, like, I'm completely trusting what God's got next, as messy as it might be while we're getting there right now. And it is messy to go your own way, which is God's way, and maybe not feel like anybody else wants to go there with you.
Yeah.
But look at where, look at what it lands you, So quickly, spending time alone with God. Give me like a don't at 23.
Boy, I feel like the list of don'ts is a lot bigger. I'm going to try to I just think for me recently, I've been really convicted on rest. Just don't rest dumb, if that makes sense. And I'll explain that. So, my idea of rest, which is wrong, is just like laying on the couch and doing nothing. And that makes you feel worse. Like, it doesn't actually like rest your soul. It doesn't actually like rest your body. You just did nothing. And, you can still do nothing and feel rested. Like, you don't have to accomplish a task, but resting in what God's doing in your life, like resting and having like a habit of being in His Word in a time or day when you're resting. When I'm taking the edge off is a rough phrase, but when after a long day,
when you're unwinding,
yes, when I'm unwinding, I've really watched how I unwind, and I want to unwind in a way that is still honoring to God.
So this would lead me to maybe one of your don'ts, which is like you're really cautious with social media.
Very. I'm down to 15 minutes of Instagram
a day.
Yep. And I've got nothing else. And that too is a personal thing. I think you've really just got to. I have a super addictive personality, and I love fun. And so, like, if I'm gonna scroll for an hour. I'm not gonna scroll for like
Right.
Like a little 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And I look at my brother. My brother is awesome, and he's super disciplined. He doesn't need any child lock on any of his apps, because he's like beep boop beep, done. You know what I mean? He's very disciplined, and you may be on that end, and none of this is you should do this.
But you have an alert.
I have a screen time password that my girlfriend has. So if I want more Instagram, I have to text my girlfriend and say, hey, can you give me more screen time? And you know what I never do? Text my girlfriend, because that's the most emasculating thing on the planet, to be like, I want my screen time, and I want to scroll and listen to funny things. And it's not to say that you can't rest. What my rest has turned into is I've 2 great roommates, and what my rest has turned into is just hanging out with them.
Spending quality time.
At the end of the day, instead of wasting time on my phone, not gaining anything, knocking on Badeau's door and saying, what are you doing?
Right.
And just hanging out, asking him about his day. And what that has done for my relationship with both of those guys, Badeau and Carlos are my roommates, and honestly, just interacting with people. There are 2 things that last forever: God's people and God's word. And I just got convicted about how much I was spending time with just me.
I love that, Carter. That's brilliant.
I think that's a unique problem of the 22-year-old. I think when you've got a family, you're probably I need to get these people out of here. You know what I mean? I totally get that. But for where I'm at,
I'm with you. I get convicted at how much time I want to be alone with me. Same. Because you're just so if you're not, look at the progression of this. If you're not spending time with God, your tank is on empty. You have nothing left to give. You have nothing refilling you that's productive. You'll take a shortcut to refill with a dopamine hit on scrolling, checking out for 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you look up and you go, it sure is different hanging out with a 14-year-old than it is a 6-year-old. And so I've got this really fortunate reminder in Collins of what it was and now what it's not, and how close that window is. And so I'm not very good at it, but my girls have gotten really good at saying, would you come sit with me on the couch? And I've got a agreement in my head that if they're asking me for something and I'm literally there's nuance to this. If I'm cooking dinner, no.
Yes.
And stop asking while I'm cooking dinner.
I'm making sure you're not going to
I'm going to feed you, or, no, we've got to do this disciplined thing, put clothes away. But if we're literally about to sit down and somebody's like, do you want to watch a show? Which I'll watch a show with them. I think that's fun to laugh and engage on content with them.
Yes.
Last night I watched with Vale, the astronauts who came home.
Oh, that's fun.
Vale can't listen to the podcast. She was in hot water from yesterday morning. No screen time, nothing, not a TV, nothing after school. And she was like, hey, are we doing this all night? Or am I done? And it was 5:30. I was like, oh no, honey, you got another 3 hours of this. But I was sitting on the couch and I did open my phone and I looked up and I had instant guilt. And I was like, no, I'm not going to play on my phone in front of the kid that's grounded from screens.
Yep.
Hypocrite move. And so I went to put it away, but the video that popped up was these astronauts that have been in space for 9 months.
Yes.
And they just brought them back with 2 other astronauts. And I was like, hey, you've got 10 minutes before bed, and this is something educational. This is historic.
Super cool.
So come sit with me. I can extend you some mercy that you didn't deserve.
Mm-hmm.
But you can watch something productive with me. And all of a sudden, Collins came over and Lauren came over, and we watched 10 minutes of the story and how they came back and why they were weak and why their muscle density from being weightless in space.
Yeah.
It became so fascinating. And Vale was like, when did this happen? And I looked at the timestamp and I was like, an hour ago.
That's crazy.
So I don't know. That's a random thing, but
I think it is the most important thing to create memories with the people that you love the most. And that's when I look back on my childhood, we didn't when I look back on my favorite things that I did, and like if any parents are listening, like we did not have a ton of funds back in the day, and we would do vacations to the Marriott in Joliet, and we would spend a night there with imaginary points, and we would go to Cracker Barrel for dinner and then hang out in the hotel pool and come back. And I mean, we went on plenty of other vacations and all the things and did great. I don't think I've ever enjoyed time with my family more than I think it was the fun aspect of like it was just like us and the family.
Yeah.
And my dad like took the time, and my mom took the time. They were busy people, and we just hung out. And there's just a power to hanging out, whether it's your family or people, to say like, hey, you're worth my time.
Right.
And I'm not going to do anything else, and we're just going to sit here and hang out. And I look back at that, and I don't think there's anything that has impacted me more than quality time with people who love Jesus.
Yes. I just thought that we had small group Monday night. It's a bunch of young couples that are all your age, and I like love every single, not all couples even, just everybody. Nobody there in the room had their 5-year high school reunion. Nothing made me feel older than that.
Yeah.
Like nobody's had their 5-year yet. And I was like, oh, I just went to my 20-year 2 years ago, you know? So anyway, like sitting in that, and watching, like they want a life, they want what, respectfully, what we have in the fruitfulness of following Jesus closely, following what he teaches, disciplined love, like sacrificial. And it's like, listen, more than anything, more than the Joy Challenge book, go sit alone with him.
Yeah.
Go sit alone with him and have no agenda on how much you're going to accomplish reading. Just read the Gospel of John. Go read the Gospel of Luke. Go read the letter of Philippians. Go read Psalm. Take your pick. You know what I mean?
Like 19, 23, 52.
Like, and read it and go, what do you got here? Like, and get to know him. Just get to know him. And all of a sudden you'll see the fruit of that trickle down. And this went a totally different direction than I thought. I was going to pick on you, like, what's it like working with the guy that you've known your whole life, working with your dad and working with your aunt. But we're not going to go that way. This was we'll have you back. We'll do it again.
Yeah, I think it's probably better that we just all remember to hang out with God. And I think the big takeaway is, like, we are not perfect and we don't do this well all the time, but everything that people look at our lives and more for you when it's like, gosh, I wish I had what they had. It's not by our works. It's by our spending time with the Lord and him being faithful where we're not.
To do a work that we're not doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like when people show up on Sunday morning or Sunday night and they ask you or me, like, man, you're doing a great job. It's like, gosh, I hope this isn't on me, because it's not. Like, that's too much of a weight, and it's a weight that he carries for us.
Yes.
And like for anybody listening,
for my burden is easy, or my yoke is easy, my burden is light. That it is again.
Yeah, and for anybody listening, like we're saying this as people who don't do this perfect.
Oh goodness.
And anywhere close to it. We're saying this as people that have said, like, the little I've got right and the little I've done well with the Lord, he's done exponentially more. And there's no too small amount to give to him and watch him take it away.
Well said, Cardi. Go ahead and pray us out. All
right. Dear God, we just thank you that we can spend time with you. God, I pray, God, as we go back to busy lives and God, where everything is trying to take our time, God, for good reasons and for bad, God, that we can prioritize the God who created the universe, the God who created us specifically, who sent his son to die for us so that we could be in a relationship with him and live lives that matter forever. God, I just pray that we can do that we can spend time with you, and that, God, you could do immeasurably more than we could ask or imagine. We love you and we praise you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Hey, we're so glad that you joined us, Cardi, for another great story. Check us out on Sunday. If you've got a son or daughter in student ministry, you're going to want to come and get them around Carter or his teammates. It's absolutely some of the best people I know. So until next time, we'll see you on another great story.
See ya.
Thank you so much for joining us for another great story. Make sure to click that subscribe button so you never miss our latest stories. And if you are in the market for a great church home, check us out at thevillagechristianchurch.com. We've got more great stories ahead, and we can't wait for you to hear them all. So until next time, keep living another great story.